Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you?
Good man. We are just days away. Biggest event in wrestling, huh?
It's WrestleMania. Come on, go! I don't remember the rest of the lyrics, but it's a dope song. My girl is very excited to watch WrestleMania this year, and I feel I have good expectations for this year's show. I don't like the two-night events. I feel like it tarnishes the legitimacy of the WrestleMania main event. But I feel like for show to show, I feel like this is going to be a real interesting kind of event, and I think fans should be excited for it. I don't think all the nights have been sussed out yet. Maybe they have. Night one will feature Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch for the World Women's Championship. Gunther will take on Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title. There's a six-pack tag team ladder match for the undisputed tag team titles. Jay versus Jimmy. Then we have Bianca Belair making... Oh, no, sorry, Bianca. Jade Cargill making her WWE and / WrestleMania debut by tagging with former TNA knockout Naomi. Yeah, I said it. And Bianca Belair against Damage Control, which is Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. Then we have the LWO, which is going to be Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee taking on Santos Escobar and Dirty Don. Santos Escobar, for those of you who need to know, was formerly known as King Cuerno, the Hunter. And he hasn't really done much in WWE, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know why they're doing this feud other than to have, hey, look, here's some luchadors. Here's some great Mexican talent. I'm excited for it, don't get me wrong. It feels like Santos Escobar is kind of like a meh. Like Dom and Ray, okay. Dragon Lee, definitely okay. But then Santos Escobar, I feel like, is the Grayson Waller of the Latin side of things. A lot of hype, not a lot of execution. What was that, Marcus?
No, who are you talking about?
Santos Escobar.
Santos Escobar. Yeah. He hasn't done a tremendous. I do so miss King Cuerno, but that's we got a Lucha Underground bias here a bit. But yeah, this whole LAX versus
LWO.
Yeah, LWO. Thank you. LWO versus the Escobar faction. Delgado El Fantasma. It's been interesting. Now you adding Ray to the mix. Now you adding Dom to the mix, which may be leading to some potential fall out with Judgment Day, as you have Andrade looming over there as well. So they keeping the Latin flavor mix heavy right now over there.
It's going to be interesting. We also have what I want to believe is an angle. A-Town down Under, the Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Did I call him Grayson Allen? I think I did.
Oh, you almost said A-Town Dunner.
A-Town down. Theory and Waller are getting into a feud with notorious and beloved workout commentator Joey Swoles, I think his name is. And he called them out recently on whatever platform it was. I saw it on Instagram, but nobody uses Instagram but me. So it's like a TikTok's feeder system, if you will. So I don't know if that's to hype up an eventual showdown between the three men, because Theory and Grayson Waller had a interaction at a gym where somebody walked in front of their camera and they yelled at him, and Joey Swoles did a reaction video to it. I want to say it's an angle, because I really don't think those two tchotchkes are clever enough to actually go after someone in public, right? Like, I feel like they're not exactly playing with a full deck of cards, and the only reason that they would get into an actual situation is if it's to kind of generate some type of interest for the match. So if we see him at WrestleMania, this Joey Swoles individual, we know that there were some payments made, so to speak.
Yeah, well, I know they had that incident when they went to Australia where I think the guy, I think it was it Theory or Waller, where you might have heard about this, where the
I
guy,
think it was Waller because he seems to be the more hot-headed of the two. Theory
yeah,
looks like he's trying to figure out how to put batteries into his Game Boy, like perpetually.
great '90s callback reference.
Thank you, thank you.
But yeah, that whole, do a move on me, so since we all know this stuff is fake anyway, type deal. And I can understand why you would get, because the whole thing behind that is it's kind of like um, a play on, like, just making kind of a bit of a mockery of it. They talked about it on. Never thought I'd say it. I've been watching some of these impulsive podcast interviews with Jake Paul, because he's
Hmm.
had some good stuff on that. He's had everybody from Orton to Triple H to Cena, and recently he had Ripley on there. So there've been some good interviews. But yeah, it's that's interesting because I've only come across that Swole guy recently, but he seems to be like the John Cena of the gym or something.
Yeah, he does do some content that's staged, but it's very deliberately staged. Like it's obviously performative for a reason. But it's mostly his shtick is like if you go to the gym, that's already enough. Like just make sure you do what's good for you and don't worry about anyone else because the whole point of going to the gym is to make yourself better, not compare yourself to others. So he has like a real down to earth kind of vibe. The problem is that I don't know, where we are in this situation if this is a real thing or if this is just an angle. So we'll find out. Obviously, we're gonna find out one way or another. But it's definitely interesting to see how this is playing out. It does give an overall tag match that doesn't have a lot of heat in it besides the reunion of the Miz and R-Truth. Something to do. We'll talk more about this match later. Bloodlines taking on Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins, the main event night one. If The Rock and Reigns win on night one, main events of night two will be for the WWE title, but under Bloodline rules, which is there are no rules. And if Cody and Seth win, then Cody will get to face Reigns without anyone to second Roman. But we'll see if that actually ends up happening because WWE has a tendency to, not actually do that. So we'll see. Uh, then we have the card for night two. I feel like night one's going to be a lot more gimmicky in how they do their matches because they only have set of six matches for night two, and a lot of them more are title matches, while the first night are more multi-person matches. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight title. Io Sky versus Bailey. Io Sky is part of Damage Control too, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what I figured. So I guess Bailey's going to be backed by this new trio of women. We'll see what happens there. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Most of this I've been noticing has been happening on social media with LA Knight getting arrested after jumping AJ Styles numerous times. Love that. That's hilarious. Then we had Logan Paul taking on Randy Orton, Kevin Owens. That's the snooze match for me. Because, like, I don't care about any three of these dudes, and I feel like they could have really done something far more interesting with this triple threat. But I think Logan Paul's going to have some highlights out of this one. The Pride, which is not a great name, admittedly. Marcus, I don't know if you like this name, but I feel like calling three black dudes the Pride really just like, you guys like Lion King, right? That seems a little offensive, Triple H.
You're
You
like,
like Lion King, right? You like the monkey, and he's like, but it's in the past, and then like cracks that fruit, and he
you
eats
remember,
it or something.
sure, you like Michael. You remember that animal they relayed Mark Henry to that one time?
You mean a very cuddly bear? No. So it doesn't have the best name, but I do like they're trying to do something with Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford. And I feel like Bobby Lashley's at that point where while I still like Lashley, he's a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal person, phenomenal wrestler. I feel like you can start to tell he's not what he used to be in the ring. So pairing him with a set of tag team wrestlers is a great call. Now that being said, we go from racially insensitive to 2002 called They Want Their Stupid stable name back. The Final Testament tryhards over here. Marcus, they are just tryhards. They are tryhards so hard over here. Ugh.
Yeah.
Karrion Kross, Tokar, and Razor.
Tokar Razor. And call it the Smoke Show herself, formerly the Smoke Show.
April O'Neil.
Well, yeah, I didn't see the whole Pride name until yesterday, and it didn't really click to me. It really felt like something randomly, like they just threw up there. I don't even know necessarily if the squad came up with the name. I guess we'll find out later. But the only thing more random than that to me is that faction.
Yeah.
But again, I think it also speaks to the kind of damn near stranded at sea that it felt like Cross has been at really for most of his main, if not all of his main roster run. You know,
You're not wrong. I find it funny looking at Karrion Kross that arguably the best he was ever booked, arguably, was his brief 12-episode run in Global Force Wrestling. That was wild.
it is a 12-episode run. That is hilarious.
Main event's going to be Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. If Cody loses, I'll riot. I don't even like Cody. Cody's worn me out, man. Like, finish the story, don't finish the story. I just don't. I am so bored with Roman Reigns. It's beyond inconscionable that this is still a thing. And everyone's like, well, The Rock made it better. No, he didn't. I still don't care.
It's interesting because this might be one of the few things we're on opposite sides on.
That's fair.
I feel that way about Rhodes.
I mean, I feel that way about Rhodes too. Like
I'm picking between two evils here. Bear with me.
I'm right there with you, my friend. I feel like what they should have done, had Cody win the title last year, had the Bloodline do exactly what it did. The Usos fragment, turn on Roman, one turns on the other, then maybe one or both return to the fold with Roman. Along the way, you actually have Solo Sikoa do something he's never done before. Win. Build him up as an actual force. Then you run the gauntlet at Cody come SummerSlam. Roman, the Usos, Solo. Cody retains, but at what cost, right? Maybe Cody gets quote-unquote hurt, take the belt off him, Roman regains it. Or maybe Cody keeps it, and then Roman goes nuclear, calls The Rock in. Really setting up this idea that not only are they going scorch earth here, bribing in The Rock, but they're going to empty every barrel they got. They're going to drain every clip they got to beat Cody. And then you can actually spend some time building up proper allies for Cody, not Seth Rollins, the Nazi humper. So I feel like they really, like, there was so much more they could have done here. I just need this angle to end. Cody's story, Roman's story, I need it all to end. I cannot do another 6 months of this. More importantly, Marcus, I can't do the conversations about why Roman should win. Marcus, I can't do it. But if he beats Cody, he can take down the Hulk Hogan. What? He's like third. I don't even know how long he's going to have to hold the belt for it to actually, surpass, the actual top guys. I don't want to maybe sit here for another year just so Roman can break a record that doesn't matter because it's a fake sport.
It's
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he beats Hogan's record or Bruno's record or Backlund's record or whose ever record. It does not
yeah,
matter. Because
yeah.
at the end of the day, Roman Reigns has held the belt for what, 845, 47 days straight? Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's also we also know it's conflated because they basically they didn't combine the numbers of like both titles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know, and we know how the company likes to manipulate numbers. Let's not get off. That's a whole other thing. So it's like, regardless to what people feel about him passing whoever's record or whatever, like there's no concern. He done staked his name in the history books. The reign's gone on for about as long as you can get out of something like this. You know, it's time, and the reason why he dropped the thing is because they've cultivated enough store for it to damn near be more interesting with him without the belt. Because when's the last time he's been chasing anything? You know, like he
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been. You know, you could drop that line from Rocky, like you ain't been hungry since you won that belt. Like he ain't been chasing it since 2020 when when he came back in and inserted himself into a match and took the title off who that was at the time, the Fiend. So yeah, I mean, I think there's so much more story to be, and that's the one sticking point to me about this whole thing. Like, they just go ahead and give the crybabies they do or whatever, put the belt on the kid so they can get that out the way. He's a consummate baby face, beat them all up to hell. He gets right back up and perseveres, yada yada yada. Classic baby face stuff. Get him the belt because the damn family storyline of the bloodline, you could still get 6 or 7 things out of it, depending on what they want to do. Particularly now that they got the Rock back in this whole new, renewed swag. And to me, that's still more interesting than anything Cody got because, to your point, even if he wins the belt, he's still going to need an opponent to make him interesting. He's going to need an opponent the level of maybe a Brock, which I doubt they're gonna round the block on that, or somebody like Drew who's firing on all cylinders. Like he needs an interesting villain for him to be a quality face. To me, anyway.
You're not wrong. So, to update, Reigns has held the belt for 729 days. That's the WWE Championship. He's held the Universal title, the B tier title, the fake title, for 1,312 days. He is technically, if you want to, let's just look at all time, we'll say 1312 all time. He is fifth behind Bruno's second reign, which was 12,037 days. Hulk Hogan has 14,074 days. Technically, because they don't recognize the brief title change that Backlund had against Antonio Inoki, I think is what it was, has held about 2,135 days. And Bruno's first title run was 2,803 days. So even if you were like, yeah, he can still, yeah, let's surpass Bruno. So let's just do a little math. If we count his title win at payback of the fake Universal title, if we count that, right? So that's 2,803 days. Whoop, 2,803. And we'll subtract his 1,200 days. And we'll divide that by 365. That's 14,000. That's 1,491 days. You would still need Roman Reigns to hold the belt for more than 4 years to break Bruno's record. The idea of him will just break Hogan's record. Hogan's third. Why is that a record you need him to break? I understand no one likes Hogan. But you can also just forget about him. We don't need to make the product unwatchable just because some fans really just need to stick it to Hogan. Hogan's going to be dead in a few years, right? I feel like that's the ultimate gotcha for Hogan. Once he's dead, he can't put anyone over, and he can't get anyone over put on. Yeah, that's the ultimate dunk. Finally someone's going over on Hogan. The dirt. So, I don't understand this incessant need. He just needs to hold it till SummerSlam. That way he can surpass Hogan. No, kids, no. Stop it. Stop it. I feel like that one Michael Jordan anti-alcohol or drugs, or even I think it was actually anti-gambling. Um, the anti-gambling commercial that he used to do, where he's like, "Just stop and get help," which is ironic because he's a gambling addict himself. I feel like I'm having to sit here and tell people like, no, we can be done here. There's nothing else left to peruse. We can be done. Just let it be done. I feel like that one scene from what is it? There Will Be Blood, where the guy beats the shit out of him and he screams, "I'm finished." That's what this needs to be. It needs to be that scene where we collectively say, "I'm finished with this," and we move on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time. I guess some people in their mind can't see the story being interesting if you don't have the title. But I'm like, that's like, if he can't go on and have it still have good story without the title at this point, then what has this reign meant?
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's the whole the bloodline story has been going for however many damn near 4 years now. Like the story is more so about that than the title itself. The title has just been used as a largely as an ego boost for somebody that was already on the top of arrogant mountain. So you know, like I said, they done had to do win the damn Rumble back to back. All the internet, you know, going to bat for the kid. Rock showing legitimate children on screen crying behind Cody getting whooped last night. Like just cultivated. The Rock really has come back and done everything he can to make Cody the most sympathetic babyface in the last decade. So
So I think we're in agreement. It's
yeah, it's time. You got
time to
to
write the final chapter.
you got to do it. It's only so long you need to milk that, and and if he's supposed to be the chosen one. Y'all love him so much. Let's see what he can do when he actually finally gets it. Because what you don't want to do is turn him into the perennial chaser, where it's like, oh my God, he was so much more interesting when he was going after the chip, and not so much when he got it. Because he kind of put himself behind the eight ball in AEW when he was like, if I lose, I'll never go for the title again, and he never did.
Yeah, and it bit him and that company in the ass. So let's not do that again, right? No round two. Let's do a quick predict, and then we'll move on to other stories. Night one, Ripley versus Lynch. I am going to have Lynch go over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go against prevailing wisdom. I'm gonna go with Ripley. I
I'm going to
just
actually jot some prediction notes down.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ripley. I think she's been on a sickening run. I don't feel like Becky could or should beat Ripley. I just don't think she's that opponent. I know how she's booked, but from an aesthetic perspective, to me, in ring don't really match up. Like, I mean, ironically enough, the way coming back and being booked, it almost felt like Nia could have been the one to finally knock Rhea off, as opposed to somebody like Lynch. But again, she's also somebody that kind of gets that prevailing babyface thing that she just can take a hell of a licking and keep on ticking type of thing. So the way they building it, and I think Rhea's had the title for a full year now. I think it was that yesterday was the anniversary. She won it a year ago from Charlotte to the day. So um, yeah, they it's likely going to Becky, but I'm going with Rhea.
All right, then we got Gunther and Sami Zayn. I'm going Gunther. Marcus.
Yeah, I want to go to Gunther retire. Although there is a small window for effery now that they got Gable in the mix training Sammy. But to me, that's another situation where, much like I feel about like Lynch, I'm like I don't think Sam is the opponent to me that can believably beat Gunther. Like I feel like Gunther's the opponent at this point that you would have to severely upgrade yourself past like doing some hella fire Rocky workouts. Like he almost needs to upgrade his entire arsenal. I don't feel like you can beat somebody like Gunther at this point with a haluva kick. Maybe a succession of haluva kicks, but I'm like y'all gonna have to really do something different with this match because the person that came closest to beating him in recent memory was Jay Uso. And the only reason why he didn't beat Gunther for the title is because Jimmy interfered. So y'all gonna have to turn that up. To me, somebody else got to beat Gunther, and I'm going. If did not go have it beat Gable, I understand why you would want Sammy to finally get the chip, but I'm going with the ring general too.
Six-pack tag team ladder match for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship. It's the Judgment Day versus DIY versus the Awesome Truth versus the New Day versus A Town Down Under and Catch Republic, which is Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. I'm going with the Awesome Truth. I think they're going to go for the lovable win, so to speak.
I'm right there with you, and it should be them because that rounds out that story with Truth with the Judgment Day. If I'm being honest, and I think if we were booking it, there'll be some different tag teams in this match.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how you don't have the Creed brothers here, but we not booking it. But if you go round out this thing and finally have Judgment Day lose, have it be to the Miz and Truth, and I think who would root against Truth getting anything good in this world at this point? So
Then we have Jimmy versus Jay. I'm going to pick Jimmy because I'm pretty sure that's the heel.
finally got it right. 13 years,
Yay!
10 years later. No,
Well, in my defense, they finally changed up their looks. They didn't look the same. Not racist, they're twins.
this is true. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Jay on this one. I'm gonna go ahead with I'm going ahead with Yeet on this one, King of the Yeet.
We got Bianca, Jade, and Naomi versus Damage Control. I'm going with Bianca, Jade, and Naomi to get the win. You're not bringing in Jade Cargo with all the pomp and circumstance she has, and not have her win on her debut. So I'm going with those three. Marcus.
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. I'm right there with you. Like even as skilled as great as EO, Oscar, and even the Cody's in their own right. Like they did a run in. Bianca did a run in like 2 weeks ago, and you could almost tell she was holding back at how much she could hoss those girls if she really wanted to. And then you put Jade in that mix, and Naomi is no slouch either when it comes to strength. She's deceptively strong. Yeah, this is a no-brainer to me. Yeah, I just can't wait to see how that's going to be delivered. Those entrances, those looks. Yeah. So
The LW are taking on Santos Escobar and Dirty Dom. I got Ray and Dragon Lee. This is going to be Dragon Lee's coronation, I think, as the new Lucha Latin star.
yeah, it needs to be. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Finally get Ray get some come up as with his son, and Crown Dragon League because he's been another person that got pulled up from NXT and felt like lost in the shuffle. Now they finally doing something with him. So
Then we have the Bloodline versus Cody and Seth. I got Cody and Seth going over.
it's just gonna be interesting seeing who takes that pin. I would imagine The Rock because they not pinning Roman on both nights. But then this is that one scenario where I don't exactly know how this is finna go. I just feel like if you're not gonna have them win and then finagle their way to the second night, then some backdoor BS. So I'm like, does The Rock take that? That's gonna be interesting because The Rock didn't get as busy as he could have last night. So, but yeah, I'm going with you. You got to get to that second night. It's what it's been building to.
Now you're picking who? Jay over Jimmy?
Yeah,
Okay, just wanted to double check. All right, Drew versus Seth. I got Seth going over, and I really don't see Damian Priest as the top guy. So even if he cashes in, I don't see him winning.
yeah, I'm almost like not pissed off at it, but truth is that like that dangling modifier, like I wish at this point wasn't there
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like Drew was firing on 2 minute cylinders for it not to be him. It's time to take it off, Steph. Have him do something else, and they need to round that about the whole thing about Galloway. Sorry, McIntyre finally winning in front of fans. Like he's winning the battle on the promos alone. So it's like, but again, to your point, like it's Priest, and I don't see Priest really being that guy. Hell of a talent, but no.
So do you think Cody, not Cody, do you think Drew's winning even though his contract's expiring?
Oh, wow, I forgot all about that. Now that I think about it, that might be a reason why they'll do the switch of having them win and then get cashed in on.
So you think Drew's going to win and then lose the belt to Damian?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Do you think Damien's cashing in the night of or later on?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the night of. They alluded to it in the backstage thing, and there's always the Monday of, and there's technically no limit on how long you can hold that case, is there?
365. So whenever he won the case, he has until that day, a year later.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna go with because the match is on the first night or the second night.
The Seth Drew match is on the second night.
Yeah. So um, I'm gonna go with the second night because if they did it on the first night, then technically he would be in the match. I mean, it would be his. I guess it would be his match by default.
And that would actually be interesting. Have Cody and Seth lose because Damian Priest cashed in on Seth.
Yeah, and then he would essentially, I guess, go into the second night defending.
Mm-hmm. That could be interesting.
Damn, that'd actually be. I'm hoping that. I'm kind of hoping I'm wrong now. And they go with that and the surprises. I'm kind of hoping they go with a lot of different surprises for this whole mix.
All right. Well, I'm gonna mark it down for Drew, and then Damian cashes in.
Yeah.
Io Sky versus Bailey. I'm going with Bailey.
Yeah, just it's time. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's what it's leading to. Give it to the.
Knight versus Styles. I'm going with LA Knight to get his big WrestleMania win.
I'm going with I'm going with Knight, and I'm gonna overbook a finish here where Styles goes for the phenomenal forearm, and Knight catches him with the blunt force trauma.
U.S. Triple Threat: Randy Orton, Logan Paul, and Kevin Owens.
I hate to say it, Paul retains, takes advantage of the OGs, if you will, sneakily sneaks those knucks in there somewhere, finagle some type of way.
All right, then we have the Pride versus the Edge Lords.
It better be the Pride. You got them knocked out of the ladder match. They've been getting their ass kicked for weeks. They need the win.
I'm going with the Pride as well.
Yeah.
Lastly, Roman versus Cody.
They said it. It's time. You gonna put all this stuff out. You got the crown the kid.
You want to crown him? Crown him! All right. WrestleMania is this Saturday and Sunday. We will be back next Tuesday, obviously, to talk about the results. So
I think more so than talking about the aftermath, I'm looking forward to hearing about. We're just gonna say Lady Porto's reaction to everything.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
She really liked the AEW's pay per view that we watched with Sting's last match.
Yeah.
There's a new meme in the household where she and I joked about what the process was going to be like for Darby Allin pitching that glass spot that he pulled, and we just joked around. We came up with this idea of Darby sitting down with the creative heads of AEW going, "All right, listen to me. I'm going to get pushed off a ladder through glass tables," and everyone's like, "Darby, no!" And Darby just goes, "What I'm hearing is Darby, yes."
You know what? That might be an interesting point to integrate into talking about another particular individual who had a conversation about glass.
We'll get there. We'll certainly get there. He's on the docket. He's on the docket for sure.
Because I don't know who's more nuts for different reasons. One seems to just be an idiot, and the other one just like you really was gonna go. You really went through that glass, gone through all the hell that you always put yourself through, and then you would go attempt Mount Everest. Are you serious?
Yeah, he's daffy, that one.
Also, there's a video real quick of him because he's with Gigi Dolan, right?
Yes.
And she said on their first date he was trying to impress her or whatever, and they stopped at this place and he put some hot sauce in his ass.
Yeah.
Like, yo, man. It's just a different generation, man.
Now, to clarify, he was with Gigi Dolan. This was, they were together for like 2 or 3 years, from like 18 to 20. So like 2018 to 2020. So.
Gotcha. I saw that video. I'm like, yo, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's definitely a whacked out daffy bastard. Speaking of daffy bastards, do you remember when WrestleMania weekend used to be a big time for indie wrestling? Everyone would show up to the host city. Thursday, Friday, Saturday would be for the indie wrestling and NXT, and then Sunday night would be WrestleMania. Well, ever since the WWE decided that they hated anyone who wasn't their own company, that went out the window. Ever since the pandemic and the two-night WrestleManias, the hype around non-WWE events during WrestleMania weekend in the host city of WrestleMania no longer have the same, to lack of a better pun, impact. TNA used to do the shows that weekend. They didn't. They stopped doing it. Ring of Honor, before they got bought, used to do shows. They stopped doing shows, although they are doing shows now. Shikara has since gone out of business. So there are still companies that do it, but the hype around the weekend is definitely different. It's no longer the same fervor that it was, and maybe that's because WWE wasn't good at during that explosion of indie talents. Those were the real draws of the weekend because WWE was just so hard to get through. That's no longer the case now. WWE is in the midst of a boom period. But that doesn't mean that shows still aren't happening. We know that Game Changer Wrestling has a bunch of shows. First foremost being for the culture, AC Mack, D'Lo Brown, and Big Swole are going to serve as commentators for the Fight TV event. I don't know who a lot of these talents are. Some of them I do know. Billy Dixon's taking on Darius Carter. Two Colt Scorpios taking on frontman Josh C. Man like Darius, I think it's Man like Darius, is taking on Sonny Kiss. Alex Kane will take on Shug D. Team Myron will take on Team Top Dollar. Ladies Night Scramble match and a four-way tag match. I don't know the specifics of some of these multi-person matches, but that's the general card. We also have Game Changer Wrestling taking on the Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling event. We got Reina Yamashita, Masha Samovich, and Maki Ito taking on Miro Yamashita, Shoko Nakajima and Yuki Aino. Billy Starks and Janae Kai, are taking on Rika Tatsumi and Mio Watanabe. Sawyer Wreck and Ali Katch are taking on Misuki and Nayo Kakuda. Shazzy McKenzie's taking on Arusu Indo. I feel like these names are getting purposely harder.
yeah, this is. I'm like, is he reading a card or he taking a test?
Dude, yes. Steph Delander is taking on Hyper Miyaso. Dark Sheik is taking on Yuki Kamafuku. Session Moth Martina is taking on Raku. And Suzumi is taking on Palm Harajoku. Then we have Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling live in Philly. So it's the same group of women, just their own internal thing. Mayo Yamashika and Maki Ito are taking on Mayu Watanabe and Rika Tatsumi. Shoto Nakajima is taking on Rio. Misuki and Vert Vixen are taking on Palma Harajoku and Max the Impaler. Hyper Misawa is taking on Billy Starks. Yuji and Raku is taking on Viva Van, and Yuki Kamafuki. Oof, these are rough. Suzumi and Aruso Endo are taking on Zara Zakhur and Nao Katuga. Then we have Joey Janela's Spring Break 8. These names should be easier. Not easy, but easier. Masako Tanaka and Minoru Suzuki are taking on Rina Yamashita and Masa Slamovich in a intergender tag match. Yamamoto, Dragon Kid, Kizi are taking on Shun Skywalker, Ben K, and Kota Minoru. Nick Wayne, Jordan Oliver, Mike Bailey are taking on Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, and Kerry Morton. That's going to be a fun match. Gringo Loco is taking on Volador Jr. I think it's still Volador Jr. Someone dropped out of this match. It was supposed to be Gringo Loco versus somebody else. And I don't know if Volador Jr. is the guy that was getting replaced or the guy who is the replacement. So this may change. GCW World Champion Blake Christian is taking on Joey Janela with Missy Hyatt in his corner, so that's a legend coming back to town. Matt Cardona will take on Blue Cane. I Quit match, Effie versus Mance Warner. And a Maki Death match, Maki Ito and Nick Gage will take on Danhausen and Ram Kaicho. Yikes. Wrestling Revolver will take on House of Glory. There's only 3 matches for this event. It's Mustafa Ali taking on Amazing Red. House of Glory Championship and Revolver Championship. Santana will take on Alex Shelley. And the Philly Street Fight will be Steve Macklin with Killer Kelly taking on Charles Manson. So if you're looking for the quote-unquote TNA card, this seems to be it. There are expected to be more matches announced, but as of whenever this article that we're looking at came out, there were only 3. Supercard of Honor's up next. Should be more than 5 matches, but the 5 that were announced when this was written was Eddie Kingston versus Mark Briscoe for the world title. Athena versus Hikaru Shida for the world title, for the women's world title. The TV title will be women's TV title will be Billy Starks versus Queen Aminata. The men's TV title will be Kyle Fletcher versus Lee Johnson, and Mina Shikahara, Maki, and Mai Sierra is taking on Saya Kaminiti, Tam Nakano, and AZM. That's something. Defy Wrestling has an event. It's going to be Kenta versus Gringo Loco in the main event. Trios 3-way dance is going to be the Sovereign taking on Dragon Gates, taking on C4XKC. CCK will take on the Moonlight Express. Vert Vixen will take on Trisadora and Sawyer Rack for the Defy Women's Championship. And a BMF Battle Royal featuring Shaft, Luke, Jacobs, Galliano Del Mal, and Gene Money. We got Progress. Rio versus Lana Austin's the big match here. As is apparently. Oh no, I thought that was Cheeseburger. I'm not going to go through all of them. Joey Janela is going to take on Nick Nemeth in the WrestleCon match. It's the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Super Show. Now, this card actually seems enticing. Rob Van Dam versus Mike Bailey. Masato Tanaka versus Josh Alexander. Nick Nemeth versus Joey Janela. Team CMLL of Mystico, Averno, Barbaro, Cavanero, Viliano 3, and Star Jr. will take on Dragon Gate, Dragon Kid, Shun Skywalker, Kota Minoru, Benkei, and Yamamoto. We got a Philly Street Fight of Paul Walter Hauser versus Sammy Callahan. Okay. Los Boricuas, Savio Vega, Jose Estrada, Miguel Perez Jr., and Huracan Castillo Jr. will take on Full-Blooded Italians. Little Guido, Tommy Rich, Tony Mamaluk, and to be announced. So that's my pick for the show of the weekend. DDT goes Philadelphia. It's going to be a DDT event, so if you know who DDT is, you got that. And then we have Josh Barnett's Bloodsport with Josh Barnett versus Johnny Bloodsport, a.k.a. Johnny Morrison. We got a one-night 4-woman wrestling tournament to determine... I think it's to determine a champion, but we'll see what that ends up happening. It's Janae Kai, Lady Frost, Marina Sheriff, and Lindsay Snow. Fuminori Abi will take on Takira Nomura. Timmy Thatcher will take on Alex Tischer. Matt Mikowski will take on Akira. Nick Nemeth will take on Mike Bailey. Minoru Suzuki will take on Royce Isaacs. Eric Hammer will take on Lou Nixon. And Shayna Baszler will take on Masha Slamovich. That might be the main event. So that's the weekend. I wish it was a little bit more jam-packed, but looking at some of the cards, especially the last 2 or 2 out of the 3, the Bloodsport 10 and the WrestleCon event, like I may actually get those. The WrestleCon event match is going to take place on Thursday, and it'll start at 7 p.m. And then Bloodsport will take place on Thursday as well, starting at 4 p.m. So I may be watching those back to back. So, Mark, does any of those catch your eye?
Yeah, I go check out the Ring of Honor, and you're just talking about all the shows you just listed in general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about the Ring of Honor, one obviously, and then Bloodsport, because I think nothing with TNA is coming to the 24th, which is Rebellion.
I think so, and even then, TNA's hyping for these events haven't been great. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so probably those 2. I don't necessarily know if I'm be able to catch all the other ones, but I am glad there are clearly a lot of events, even if it's the volume is not what it used to be, which is most of your original point of the topic, which it used to be felt more like a wrestling festival, if you will, celebration of the industry. But maybe this is something we talked about when we came on air, like maybe that that comment, and you talked about this before about the saying about rising tide raises all the ships, and like maybe WWE tired right now with all the success that they're having. Um, Obviously, double the nights for the WrestleMania. Maybe they tired is just a little too high for a lot of these boats to get uh, any type of momentum, and they just kind of capsize. A lot of people are probably looking at just the sheer amount of business that they pulling and looking at like we can't really gain it off any of that business really because the hype is now so specific to WrestleMania instead of just wrestling in general. That some people just probably don't even care to do the weekend and like we'll catch the next one. So
Mm-hmm.
I can understand in that regard, but it is kind of your point is kind of disappointing because like I said, it did feel like a whole celebrate like WrestleMania facilitated a whole celebration of the industry for that weekend, whereas now it's kind of a thing. But I get some of that stuff is I guess kind of bound to happen. Like you said, some stuff is popping up, some stuff is going out of business, some things are merging. And maybe a lot of those companies that would have had a lot of different names don't now because also you've had the advent of AEW growing. So that's the thing too.
Certainly is. So with that being said, we're going to move on though. Got a few more things to touch on before we call it a night. Did anything happen this weekend with CM Punk? Any news broke Monday? I don't think so. So CM Punk went on Ariel Helwani's show and didn't do anything of value, or not value, but didn't do anything of significance. Nobody saw or heard anything noteworthy from this interview. Being facetious, obviously. Now, hell of a day to do the interview on April Fool's Day of all things. Basically, Punk dunked on AEW so hard. Shaq, circa 1994, when he was famous for breaking backboards, said, "You need to stop," because that was too much. He basically said that AEW wasn't a real company, that they weren't worried about making money, that they didn't worry about drawing shows or anything like that. They were kind of just focused on doing their own thing when they wanted kind of situation. He didn't speak too highly of Tony Khan, but he also explained basically what happened with the Jack Perry incident. We'll talk more about Jack Perry here in a second. Basically saying that Jack came up to him right after his match at All Out or All In or whatever the fuck the show was called, right before Punk was to face Samoa Joe, and Jack instigated a fight with him, and while CM Punk doesn't say he did anything, he did say he choked somebody out. He just didn't say who. To be honest, it was one of the funnier bits of the segment. It was not a great look for AEW, admittedly. And it really did contextualize the issues that we've always spoken about the lack of an actual authority in this company. Because the way Punk spoke and the lack of response since then really does seem like the issues that Punk suffered from in the company were always going to be there because of who was at the top. He made it very clear that when he came in, there were guys there who already didn't like him. He didn't name names, but he's talking about the elite. And it feels like the elite really did everything they could to piss him off. And if that's the case, if that's everything that happened, and I really hope it's not, but it really does feel like this company isn't long for the world, only for the fact that Tony Khan is yet to realize that he can't run this company. He needs someone who can actually be like, I need to sit here and say, enough's enough, and I need someone who can come in and be like, you're done. And I feel like he's trying to do that with Bryan Danielson, but I also feel like it's not enough. And considering that Jack Perry has been persona non grata in AEW since that night, and considering that he said that Tony Khan hasn't spoken to him since that night, and considering the reports, I think it was about how Tony Khan hasn't fired him, but he doesn't see him coming back anytime soon. I think a lot of people realize that Punk was very much, I don't want to say a victim in all this, but it does feel like a lot of people kind of looked at this like, listen, we fucked up by not addressing this sooner, and God, this is this whole interview was a scathing condemnation on AEW, and the lack of consistency and structure out of the product affects on the product. And it feels like there are times when people don't seem to realize that what they're watching isn't the best it could be. And I'm just kind of thinking about the fact that like MJF, like MJF had this huge run and everything, yet it actually hurt the company. Like when you look at it, when you look at the brass tacks of it all, MJF's run with the belt did not help the company. He had a diesel effect. And I think people need to realize that part of the reason for that is the lack of structure. If Tony Khan can't keep the wrestlers in line, how can he keep the stories in line? How can he really, manage and promote talents to do what they need to do when he can't keep them in line behind the scenes? And I feel like CM Punk's interview really did hurt the perception of AEW. But Marcus, I really want to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, man, I think you can really just label that entire interview or entitle that entire interview, tell me where he's telling lies again.
Mm-hmm.
It's feel like another one of those situations. I feel like a lot of people are in willful denial when it comes to certain stuff because it feel like one of those things where he obviously referenced stuff that we saw on camera, but a lot of stuff happened off camera. And I think for a lot of these fans, and to a point that he made about, you know, when Ariel asked him about, and this whole thing is so funny as well because if I'm not mistaken, I think didn't Ariel Ronan say the worst interview he had was with Tony Khan?
I think so.
Um, so that's funny, and then the only reason why Punk, apparently sat down and had the interview because he's the one person that he actually considers a real journalist. Once again, referencing all the, I guess, the staged AEW media that he would have to sit in front of for those post media scrums. But um, yeah, it kind of just speaks to that backstage thing, like going back to my point about the uh, a lot of it for the fan, those diehard AEW fans that willful ignorance is because again to the point that Punk made, so much of the company may be just very well about not necessarily the straight up and down business aspect, but the on screen wrestling product, and that for a lot of fans is what they see. So that's what they attach to, and they make that the whole concept. And if that's good, then everything else is good. Punk was speaking to the foundational things behind the company that could very much well affect things that we see on screen, which we did, particularly when he was there. Well, I think for a lot of fans, as long as they getting what they deem 5-star matches or dream matches, everything's cool because for a lot of them, if they don't see it, it didn't happen. And if Punk is viewed as the bad guy, everything he's saying is just hearsay. And I don't think he lied about one thing. One, because he doesn't have a history of being a liar. And two, in the position he's in, how does that benefit him? It probably, I mean, obviously the felt like the internet, well, internet wrestling Twitter imploded uh to a certain degree. But I would imagine, and maybe this is better with post Vince, that probably WWE probably wouldn't have wanted him to sit down and have a damn near 2-hour interview talking about one of his rivals for most of it instead of promoting WrestleMania. So, like I said, you could just label it, tell me where you're telling lies, and it really sucks because when you kind of listen to what he's saying, it's like and you've alluded to this, like it's not show business over there, it's show friends. Like who's running that show when you have to ask the boss to wrangle, you know, wrangle your crew or whatever, and they can't really do it because they kind of just going with the flow, and there's no real structure. There's just certain narratives that's being allowed to go on that maintain a certain level of balance that's not necessarily, blowing up the ship, but ain't exactly smooth sailing either. Like it's this weird dichotomy there where some guys got it better than others, or some people may be taking liberties where they only, show up for certain things and the rest of it is vignettes. Like I'm just trying to sit there and thinking like, like, why would he? What reason would he have to lie about any of this? I feel like we see a lot of this. We just don't necessarily mention it. And coming off of that interview, isn't this like? Didn't they just have their first Black Friday, pretty much?
Yeah, though a lot of the names they cut aren't really.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, and this is not trying to be the a hole, like dead weight in the context of what they were to the show.
And the thing is, like, I don't have an issue when WWE does it. I had an issue when WWE did it during the pandemic, but I don't have an issue when any company does this because sometimes you just need a refresh roster, and sometimes some people aren't good enough. And actually wish TNA would do it a little bit more often, because there's some talents that they carry that they shouldn't. So like, I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, hearing CM Punk point out that there were guys who didn't want to work the rest of the month, so all they wanted to do was show up for one day, do their match, and then film vignettes for the rest of the month that would air for the rest of the month, but film it all in that one day, like, that was telling. That shows that shows a lot of laziness, but what are you gonna do? Now, the one name that seemed to get the most heat was Jack Perry, and Jack Perry has seemed to run afoul with Mr. Bully Ray. Apparently, Bully Ray and Jack had a prior disagreement last year that didn't come to light until now. And since then, he's kind of made it very clear that, like, he's not a fan of Mr. Perry. He's not a fan of Mr. Perry at all. And apparently, he said that Perry was disrespectful, was hard to deal with. And, like, some people are clowning on Bully Ray. Oh, you came from ECW, the land of rebels, and all that. But what people seem to fail to realize is that Bully Ray still played a role. Like, he still had a boss. He still did his job. And I feel like people often forget that. Like, Bully Ray's not a great person. But Bully Ray also showed respect to people. Not everyone. Not if you were an up-and-comer. He was very rough to some guys, and that didn't always sit well with people. But for the most part, especially when he was an up-and-comer, he did show respect for the higher-ups and the older talent, so to speak. But hearing all the things going on with Jack Perry, it kind of does paint a picture of him having significant attitude issues, because Tony Khan has issues with him, CM Punk has issues with him, Bully Ray has issues with him. He's buried on the New Japan Strong roster right now, just kind of like twirling his thumbs, not doing much of anything. It does seem like there's smoke to this fire. Do you think Jack Perry recovers from all this? He's only 26.
I mean, there's always time for him to, growth is always possible. He's young. Might have that, that proverbial chip on his shoulder. I don't know why he would have people around him like a Punk, or hell, even a Skiavone, because apparently he was cursing out producers and cursed out, Shivani, and you know, um, then you got in Punk's face, and it may have been, I won't say it was alluded to, but it comes off like he got gaslit by the Bucks potentially, in certain regards. So it's like a lot of that's just like deep immaturity, maybe some insecurity. Um, it sounds like got a lot of growing to do, and a lot of getting out of his own way to do. And there's always time to do that. And we've seen people come back from worse, but this kind of might be the proverbial spanking that he needs. Obviously not in the literal sense, that though something like that may have come in the form of a mild choking when this initial incident went down. But yeah, I think he can recover, but only if he looks at it the right way, and sees where take accountability for where he potentially kind of got in his own way, like I said, because there's something to be said for the fact that the company is kind of blackballed him a little bit, or sent him on a proverbial excursion, and not really dealing with him. Like, he seems like he very much came off like a headache to a lot of people, and it just got to the point where it was just easier at the time to make Punk the scapegoat because he didn't want to be there anymore. So, and obviously paint the narrative of nobody liked him. Like, well, I don't, just because, certain people don't come out, don't mean he didn't have friends back there, to his point about that. So, But yeah, sounds like you know, Jungle Jack was a bit of a jungle jackass, and we all have those moments in life, but like I said, it comes down to how much is he committed to that level of willful ignorance. You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to take into accountability, you don't want to grow, you want to keep, being in your own way. It's funny because talking about people getting in their own way, I was watching, went down a little wrestling YouTube rabbit hole the other day, and I, again came across some videos talking about the kind of rise and fall of Tessa. And yeah, you just got to be mindful, man. Like just because you think you being edgy or standing up for stuff, like in the grand scheme of things, that glass incident was a stupid thing to down the hill of. Because ultimately, to Punk's point, it's a rental car. Why would you want to jack up a rental car? We would then have to probably end up paying twice the price for the rental car because we would be returning it damaged. That would be selling our reputation, not just as a company, but in the concept of we don't need to be renting any more cars to wrestlers because they damage our product, which ultimately hurts the industry at large. So, when you look at it like that, the larger perspective is you really just, stuck your foot in your own ass on that one. So but again, to your original point, I think there can be room for him to come back and bounce back from this, but he gotta be committed to taking accountability.
Yeah, and to what Marks was saying, Jack Perry wanted to break a window of a rental car with like a pipe or something, and the doctor said no. Tony Schiavone said no. Other names said no, and they eventually pulled Punk. And Punk's like, "If you do this, you're just going to be hurting the rest of the boys, because car rental places won't want to deal with us anymore." And the doctor reiterated that, like, and it's also dangerous because it's real glass, which is why he said, "Real glass, cry me a river." And it wasn't necessarily directed at Punk, apparently, but Punk was the one who kind of said, "Do we have a problem?" And apparently that answer was yes. So we'll see what happens. By the by, that's going to wrap the show up, but real quickly, The Rock beating up Cody Rhodes isn't the best ending to Raw of all time for one simple reason. We've seen that ending before, and it wasn't that impressive. He threw him into a table a few times, and then into the side of the bus, and then he said some things. Arr. I'm sorry, I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, that was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was so good. Oh my god,
Yeah,
fantastic.
I think there's this incessant need as they're going off another thing that you tweeted about it. There's this need for people to do this revisionist history over stuff that was clearly bad in the time it was bad in, and then trying to revisit, be like, no, it was brilliant. It was just misunderstood. And I can understand how we could potentially be deemed hypocritical as Snyder fans in saying that, but I think it's two different forms of art. When it comes to certain movies versus certain movies at certain times. But um, yeah, it's just one of those things, man, where it's like it's I think it was great. Look, I personally think The Rock's firing on all cylinders right now. I think him turning heel and doing kind of what Trish did when she came back and went heel and kind of renewing some of her old swag into this new heel persona has done wonders for him. Like the crowd knows it's supposed to be hating him, but they loving him because of the entrance and just everything that's going on. But yeah, we've seen a lot of great endings to Raw, and I think you know there's this need for everything to be the best thing ever, and it really is just the best thing that you've seen recently. Because we talked about it, like there was a stretch felt like damn near a decade where just Raw specifically was ass, like a very specific brand of consistent ass, and it was not good. And you seeing stuff like this, it feels like it's being more uncensored. People are feeling like it's harkening back to an era where PG wasn't a thing, and you could just go with the flow instead of everything being so capped off. So I get it, but you got to be mindful of placing things where they need to be in their proper context. So yeah, but they certainly have done a good job of building towards this mania. Like I said, the fact that you have a level of excitement for these cards. Like I said, Lady Portal's gonna be with you, potentially having a plethora of enjoyment from this, coming off of what she viewed from the AEW Sing's Go Home show, retirement match, I should say. And yeah, we'll see how it goes.
It's definitely going to be interesting. WrestleMania this weekend. Tune in, check it out. Let us know what you think. We'll be back next Tuesday for a WrestleMania recap show. We're going to close things out here and move on with our nights. You can find us on the website at realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCRP. Marcus can be found on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. You can find me on Twitter at ChadNerdCorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut. Again, we'll be back next Tuesday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. This time recapping WrestleMania and letting you guys know what we thought about it. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. Marcus, take us out.
Good night.